Tech Addicts Episode 6, The Encryption Element. This week, the UK government demands access to Tim Cook's backdoor, Meta pirating books to train their AI, we look at the Coolermaster Masterhub, Ted gets excited by film photography again, and reviews the Marshall Monitor 3 headphones. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts podcast. I'd be your host, Gareth, and I'm joined by Ted. How you be, Ted?
What's a podcast? I mean, for goodness sake, hold together your your spleech. Hello.
Spleech? Oh, excellent. Right. Okay.
Yes. I'm. Hello, everyone. I'm all right, thank you. Weather report is cloudy and cold and wintry, and rain is due any minute. What's it like there?
Oh, ditto. Exactly the same.
Perhaps we live in the same town. It was bitterly
cold yesterday.
No one told you that I lived around the corner from you, did they?
No. I was wondering who the gypsies were. Oh, sorry, I can't talk about those.
Travelling folk.
Well, you see, I think there's a dialect here. On the mainland, they prefer to be called, travellers or New Age travellers or something, whereas over here they prefer to be called gypsies.
Oh, do they?
And you can't use it the other way around. Or it might be the other way around, and I've just offended everyone in the world. But, you know, it's something like that. I remember being told that once.
Should we start this podcast again?
No. I'm sure there's a few other denominations out there will offend before the show is over. But it's something like that. Anyway, apologies. We were due to record a Linux special today. However, we're not, because poor old Mr. Ian Barton is feeling a wee bit under the weather and is not able to record, so we'll be coming back to him in the weeks to come, but we'll try to announce it ahead of time. Ted, you were speaking to Ian. Is everything okay?
I was, yeah. I think he's okay. They're just trying to find out. The medics are trying to find out what's wrong with him. No one seems to know. So much for medical science. Get better soon, Ian. We're all thinking of you. In the meantime, we had some Linux information though from someone in the group, Simon Bates. And he's, like you, Gareth, has given Windows the boot, he says.
Good man.
After listening with interest to your tales of tinkering with Linux, and as Windows was getting on my tits, I decided to give Linux a try. I used a piece of software on a USB stick called Ventoy. It allows you to put as many ISO files on a USB stick as you want to without committing to any one operating system. I tried about 5 distros over the course of about a week. It really is a tinkering dream. Distro hopping is addictive. It's like setting up a new phone and then changing it again. I couldn't believe how advanced Linux has become, says Simon. In the end, I opted for Bazite, which is based on Fedora, but geared towards gamers, as I have a big Steam library. Every game just works as soon as it's downloaded. As Gareth said, there seems to be a decent software store with everything you need, and it all just works. Thanks, guys, for giving me a little nudge to get away from Windows and into Linux. Looking forward to the special, which, as Gareth says, it will be along at some point soon.
Yeah, I'm quite interested in the fact that you're using Bazite, Simon. That is one thing that I was like, oh, should I? But I do need a more practical desktop experience, and I know Linux Mint, people do say, is, the easiest. No, not the easiest. Say Pop is probably the easiest for people to move to, and Zorin. But Linux Mint, I think, is the biggest encompassing.
Didn't they say it's the most like Windows for those eloping?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, that's
Okay.
true. But there's a million and one different distros, and Simon's absolutely right. Once you get into Ventoy and you just start cramming on ISOs and booting off them, it's just really exciting. You know, you never know what you're going to see next, and they all have great little ideas, unique selling points and things. And I'm just having a look through Bazite now to remind myself what it was, because it's not one that comes up terribly often, but it is obviously focused more toward gaming. But I haven't actually had any need to have some sort of focused operating system toward gaming outside of Linux Mint. I've been playing, you know, I do play new AAA titles, and they all run absolutely fine. I haven't encountered any problems at all. I did actually go, there was one day I went back down to the very, very bottom of my Steam library to visit some of those games that I just have never touched. And I thought, I'm just going to install 10 of these and see how they go. And there was only one that didn't work. And it was genuinely a crap game. You know, the bowels of Steam or whatever you get packed into your humble bundle or fanatical compilations that you get, and it just didn't work. So I wasn't. There was no loss there. I'm sure it'll work at some stage as Proton becomes more and more compatible. But you just challenge it and it keeps working, keeps ticking. So yeah, there's more news in that SteamOS is arriving outside of the Steam Deck hardware ringed fence that it was generally sort of used. So we'll be seeing that being slipped onto more and more systems as time goes on. So that'll be great. Ted, you given any more thought to tinkering?
Well, I have been tinkering on and off. The trouble I've got at the moment is that I seem to have this huge delay whenever I open anything on my B-Link box. And I'm thinking about swapping over to the Geekom, which is more powerful. But my question to you, on the back of what Simon was saying, is that if you keep swapping between these distros and you have 200 of them, each time you want to start playing with another one, you've got to set your desktop up all over again, and you've got to download all the stuff you want every time, haven't you? Or is there some sort of universality in there?
That's a fair question, and something I can't comment on because I haven't done that much distro hopping outside of actually using the fresh setup. But for those who have become ingrained, you know, I would like to think that you might be able to use the snapshot tool that you have to be able to redeploy everything the way it was. Okay. So you could have like a large hard drive attached, and then you could have backups of every system. So if you want to, it could, you know, the USB could pull in the backup. Maybe I'm not sure. No. That's just me thinking off the top of my head.
Simon, let us know.
Yeah, or Ian can tell us whenever we eventually get together and get that Linux special out.
Indeed.
We did have another little piece of feedback as well. I noticed on YouTube someone had made a... because I do put the podcast on YouTube now. Not that it has a particularly large audience, but Martine Miranda said that he or she, Martin Miranda, was recommended the video on YouTube through their YouTube algorithm when I was talking about the YouTube algorithm in a particular show. So they felt like commenting, which I thought was kind of funny. I guess that's some sort of exploit of the algorithm by talking about the YouTube algorithm.
Yes, good old Google.
Yeah. I don't know what to make of the YouTube algorithms and things like that. They're so difficult.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll get a proper audience there, and it'll just take time to become established. And
it's all run by robots. We were talking about that on PSC last week, because Malcolm Bryant, who's a developer, he was talking about trying to develop stuff and talk to Google about it and the Play Store. And I think YouTube's just the same. That if you want to talk to a human being, you've just got no chance. I got a notice last week or the week before telling me that my show notes were too long, but don't worry about it. We've lopped the end off, and so they automatically lopped the end off of my show notes. So halfway down the show notes, they've just disappeared. And I've tried my best to fix it, and I can't. I haven't found a way to do it yet. But don't worry, they said. It's obviously some robot. We'll just lop it off in the middle.
The easiest way to fix it is to set a reminder an hour later and then go back to YouTube after you've posted your podcast and do it yourself.
Right.
That's what I have to do. If you see it on YouTube soon after it's posted, it'll have the crap show notes, and then you'll tell when I've gone in and tinkered with it because it'll have slightly better.
Right. Okay, I didn't know. Good tip. Top tip.
No, it's hardly a top tip. It's a pain in the ass to have to do.
Yeah.
You could be off enjoying the rest of your life, but no, you have to go back because Google has manacled you to YouTube.
On the other hand, you could just not bother with it, like I have, and no one's mentioned it.
Well, yeah, you could cut your show notes way down so that you don't have this issue, but it all comes up as HTML and links and things like that because Google doesn't like links in YouTube show notes or descriptions.
Okay.
So it just gets problematic
early.
Apology. I don't know if you can hear this. I'm just realizing because I went and picked up my plastic water bottle there and had a drink. But I was doing some fixing and I got my hands covered in wood glue yesterday and I still can't get the bloody stuff off.
Okay.
My hands are all plasticky and they squeak when I grip things. So if you hear squeaky noise in the background, it's me having a drink. Plastic on plastic or wood glue on plastic. Gorilla glue. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, we'll move into the news because there's been quite a bit of news of late, and it's not new, exciting, hardware-y stuff. I don't know what I just did to their show notes there. I broke them. We're going to start with one that is doing the rounds at the moment, but it's something that you're apparently not going to be able to find out if it's true or not. And that is that the UK government has recently demanded that Apple make a backdoor to their encrypted cloud data. Apple are under a legal obligation not to suggest whether or not they have accepted to do this or allowed it to go live, which is, it beggars questions as to whether or not the UK government has already done this with, say, Google, and Google are under an obligation not to mention whether or not this is true or not. There is also the idea that this is for everyone, not just UK citizens, but if you enter the UK, if you're on holiday, you will have to, you will have the UK government poking into your encrypted cloud. If you happen to be in for a 2-week holiday, or if you're over on business, they'll be able to gain access to your iCloud to see what's there. And it's all genuinely scary. And I think back to whenever Donald Trump was kicking Huawei out of the US for having creepy backdoors into bits of hardware that they were selling the American people. And yet this is acceptable for the British government to have a peek into anyone's phone when they arrive on UK soil. It also is a problem in that I live in a little country called Northern Ireland where 50% of the people believe that they are Irish and 50% of the people believe that they are British. And those 50% of people who are Irish do not allow the British government to have any access to their life. Take, for example, I had a conversation quite recently on MeWe about gun law. Our gun law here is different to the gun law on the mainland because you can't impose the British gun law on Northern Ireland because only 50% of the people believe that they are British. So we actually have the Irish gun law, which is more open and flexible. It's bizarre for them to turn around and say, because a lot of them believe that they are European citizens now, not British citizens, they would be able to impose this on people who are here. Ted, have you read through this? I've linked to a TechCrunch post that's quite short by good old Carly Page, who is a friend of the show. And what do you make of this?
Well, I think it's a complicated issue, and it goes back to what we previously have said on the show about the government of any country trying to deal with terrorism. And I think if you were to talk to, at the risk of getting political here, I mean, if you were to talk to the government about this, they would say, well, we're keeping you safe, because if we allow anyone to have encrypted data, then they'll just immediately use that as some sort of platform to talk to each other, and they can't be caught talking to each other, and so that's the way that they'll blow up buildings and hijack aeroplanes and ferries and all the rest of it. But there is enough of a hoo-ha about this, I think. They call it the Snoopers Charter, the UK Investigatory Powers Act 2016. And I don't think it's been kind of just accepted by anyone, really, except the government who put it into place. Presumably it was Tories back then. I haven't heard what Trump or Apple or anyone is saying about this. Apple have not made any comment about it, except to say that
because they're not allowed to.
Yeah,
they're under
yeah,
legal obligation not to.
yeah. So it's really difficult to kind of drill down to get to the hub of this, isn't it? At some point you've got, but to compare it with the Huawei thing, I think that's a bit different, frankly, in many ways, because this is like it's already passed into law, this thing. So in order to change it, presumably they'd have to unpick it, and the government would have to repeal the law. And I don't know. This is probably outside of my scope of understanding, to be honest.
Well, there's two sides of this now that I'm thinking of. Is it is something that you can argue for. You can easily say, yes, this is a great idea, because you'll be able to have a unit of the UK government that can go and look for child abuse pictures, and be able to scan through all the iClouds, go and look out and nick a load of people and bring them to justice, which would be fantastic. And that's obviously the public side of it that you're going to see. The other side of it was years ago, when I started working in the British government. Actually, just before I started working in it, I remember talking to a friend who said there's a thing called the Customer Information System, or CIS, that collects as much information on everyone as possible. And the government has this, and they gradually build it, taking in all your previous addresses, anyone that you've lived with in the past, and they're building this whole matrix of information. And when I started working in the government, I got access to that. And believe you me, it was a shit show. It was one of the worst designed systems ever that was consistently wrong. And there was always there were people talking about if you go and start searching for people that you know on the system, or the customer information system, alarm bells will ring somewhere, and you'll get nicked and fired and put in prison. And that was the rumour around town, or around the building that I was working in. So nobody ever did it. And whenever I was leaving, I had a friend who who sent me an invite to her wedding. And I was like, oh, where'd you get my address from? And she said, I just looked it up in the customer information system. Oh, right, okay. And she went, yeah, I went and got all my friends' addresses, even the ones I don't really see anymore over in England or Scotland or Wales. And I posted them all, because it's all verified as a recent address. It's like, oh, you're not allowed to do that. I'm like, ugh. And she just went, oh, screw it. What are they going to do, fire me? She didn't get fired. She's still working there. I was like, right, okay, there's this whole system with everybody's information there. There's a rumour that you get fired if you use it for personal reasons, but that person didn't get fired. If this was to sort of be bolted onto that, where you could have the customer information system, and then there's a portal that allows you to go and connect to the cloud, and the likes of the local councils and the British government and local authorities can get access to it to be able to see who and what and where and why, that really does get scary. And there has been recent information, I can't quite remember the recent case, but there was that bald police officer who was brought in for, was it Nicola Bulley? I can't quite remember. No, she was the girl who fell in the river. But there was a recent story about a police officer who had raped a young girl who had come in. I think she was an immigrant or something, but he got access to her information, found out where she lived and things like that, and gone and done things, nasty things. And that was through his ability to be able to go and get it. If people can gain access to your iCloud or your Google Drive or your photos or whatever, then if you're sitting in a coffee shop and think, I quite like that waitress, you could just go on and look at all of their stuff, and there's no privacy there at all. And that's really scary. And that's how it would eventually end up. There'll be all kinds of backdoors open up. And if one backdoor is open, then they can quite easily replicate that, and hackers can get in and hold people accountable. But the British government's never going to apologise for that. Anyway, that's me just scaremongering.
Yes, that's you up on a rant. We're not going to get political on this show. Oh no.
Well, it makes you think that, is this going to be people, A, who move away from Apple, because this is obviously connected to Apple, and Android and Google are going to go, hey, don't worry about us, because they're not connected with this story. Maybe it hasn't been found out that they have already done a deal or been told to do this. B, is this going to create a large amount of open source options for people? Are the British government then going to start chasing after the bigger open source possibilities of cloud storage and things like Backblaze or pCloud or iDrive, all those sorts of things, and demand access to those too?
Or alternatively, Apple could just say, stick their fingers up to the UK like they have with the EU in some respects. Oh no, it was Google that did the fingers up to the EU, wasn't it? But they could just say, well, we're not doing it. So anyone that goes to the UK can't use Apple Cloud data. That's it. But cutting their nose off to spite their face, probably. But it sounds like it's such a minefield and such a complicated mess that I don't know. It's going to take politicians and litigators to try and work out a solution, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's absolutely going to destroy growth in every way, because no business person or no holiday maker in their right mind are going to come to the UK if they know that as soon as they walk in, their phone has been opened by the local government and has been analysed.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. And then every other country in the world is going to jump on the bandwagon going, well, if they can do it, we can do it.
Mm.
And we can say farewell to privacy. There's countries that you're just not going to want to go to in the slightest, because you don't already trust them as it is, but having to set foot on that land is going to open up everything from your phone to... There's always concern about, say, something like China. You go to China to visit the Great Wall or the Terracotta Army or something like that, and there's been stories where people have had to plug their phone in at the airport, and they felt that the information's just been sucked off their phone. And that's all conspiracy theory and things like that, but it's a possibility that could actually happen, and being welcomed with open arms by every government if they all got on the same platform and allow it.
But presumably, if this has been going on with Apple, then it's also going on with Google and other companies. Yeah. So maybe this story has hit the headlines because it involves Apple, but actually underneath it might be, well, the Investigatory Powers Act 2016 is already being complied with by these other companies anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, which makes it okay then, I guess, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. I let it be said that I don't really understand this item at all, and any flack that comes back as us covering it can go back to Gareth.
Well, it's one of those things that we're never going to find out what actually happened, and even if we are issued with a statement that Apple say, no, we didn't do that, do we believe them? You know, it's obviously devastating for their business if they were to allow this to happen. But if they turn around and say, no, we didn't allow it to happen, would the UK government have allowed them to say, yeah, don't worry about that, just say that it didn't happen?
Get Apple out of the UK, eh? Well, Huawei have done okay out of it, haven't they? They've regrouped and they've conquered, and they're huge in other countries. You know, if Apple were to suddenly not be in the UK for any purpose, I'm sure Apple would be fine.
Yeah. But it is one of those things that, it's another argument for the fact that you're better off going on free and open source and jumping onto Linux and having Linux on your phone.
Back to Linux,
as well.
yeah.
Setting up Nextcloud and having local solutions for backup and storage and things like that.
Linux phones, yeah, that's what we want.
One day. All right, carrying on down the conspiracy theory, but actually in public news rabbit hole, we have Meta. Meta have been caught torrenting, what was it, 81.7 terabytes of ebooks for their AI base to scan. It's it absolutely beggars belief. The 81.7 terabytes, given that an ebook is between 1 and I think the largest is about 10 megabytes, or not the largest, but a large standard volume might go up to about 10 megabytes. That's a heck of a lot of ebooks.
They've used this to train their AI, haven't they? They're not just scooping it up for no reason. They're using the data to train their AI models, and particularly with regards to developing their AR and XR and whatever it's called. But this is a slightly different issue. It's like this information. What's being hurt here is authors' income and copyright stuff. This is not about state security like the Apple story was. This is about this is not fair on people because it's just all being nicked. Well, we know how data online gets nicked. It gets nicked all the time by for decades and decades, all this torrent stuff and peer-to-peer sharing. It's out there. You can't possibly stop this going on. But that kind of size of data, you're right. That huge amount of data. You'd like to think that at least the big boys, the Meta Group and Google and Apple and whoever else, were not being seen to be naughty like Johnny down the road in his basement might be with nicking stuff online.
Yeah, but then Johnny down the road's the one who is going to get punished for it, whereas Meta aren't going to get punished for it. There's no way that they're going to let this happen. A company as big as that getting done for copyright. And if they were to have to go back and pay royalties to every single one, it would probably bankrupt them. 81.7 terabytes, and they had to pay $10 to each and every one of them is a heck of a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Blimey, it's a crazy idea, and it's known that this did happen because the authors have a theory about distribution, and they discovered a corporate laptop that had a Meta IP address that had downloaded this particular collection of files. So they're asking the questions, why is Meta taking these for free? But then I suppose, where it's Facebook, no, not Facebook, Amazon, they own Audible, so I'm sure whenever you put your book up into Audible, then you have to, it's probably in the small print that they will be able to analyze it for their AI.
It's going to be very difficult going forward, isn't it? Because if like in that case, Amazon allow authors to directly upload their their books either in print or in in voice, in audible or audio files. What's to stop anyone doing this? It's out there. It's available, and that's exactly what I was saying at the outset. Really, is that the torrent thing? That's exactly what's been happening. But why do you think that they won't be hauled up for this? Do you think that they'll just get away with it? Do you?
I think they will. I think there's too much going on that people are going to pay too much attention to this, and it's one of those things that it's probably quite hard to pin it on them. You know,
Right.
they'll be able to, with a shrewd legal team, they'll be able to maybe blame it on one person who was
gets sacked.
using their laptop. Yeah. They'll maybe demote them down to the post room or something like that as a necessary thing, and then promote them again 5 minutes later to the CEO.
It's very difficult because you've also got Amazon ripping off all the authors anyway. I was talking to a very well-known author about that a while back. I think I might have mentioned it on the show before, and she was telling me that she's
Jilly Cooper, that's right.
she was telling me that she's got no control at all over what Amazon do. If you let Amazon sell your stuff, they can sell it at what price they like. They can put it off on special offer whenever they fancy, and the only power that she had to do anything about it was to not let Amazon have the data. No, that was Val McDermid, incidentally, as me name dropping.
Oh, right, okay. What's she written?
She writes crime novels, and I was chatting with her on Twitter a few years ago when I used to use Twitter, and because I said to her,
Called X now.
I said to her I couldn't understand the pricing on Amazon, and can she explain it to me? And then she told me. She told me that Amazon is basically, they're a bunch of cads that rip off authors.
Well, yeah, that sounds about right. Hasn't that always been the way? If you go back to the 80s and talk to anyone who signed for a record label, they're just a bunch of cads who rip off artists.
Yeah.
You've got a talent, we're going to exploit it.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to some cool hardware.
Woohoo!
I happened to notice a couple of videos pop up on my YouTube algorithm to recommend that I have a look at the Coolermaster Masterhub. And this is, both Ted and I use the Elgato Stream Deck and enjoy the benefits of it. But this takes it up another level, actually another couple of levels. I'm going to say, and it's currently in Kickstarter, which is a bit weird for a Coolermaster product because they're a big company and they're having to resort to Kickstarter for something like this. It's a board that you can add particular tiles to that have like a customizable modular control system for your computer, whether it be slidey rockers and buttons and all sorts of things that you can put into this particular base, and you can flip it around as you like. You can change its orientation, you can move them around, move things closer to you and further away, and it's all very colourful, and it's got a very nice piece of software that allows you to customize it the way you want it. Ted, what did you make of this?
This looks absolutely brilliant. It takes the whole Stream Deck thing and puts bells and whistles on it and makes it completely physically configurable. We have got Elgato devices now that have got dials and buttons and knobs, and they're very much for creators really to use. I don't use it as a creator. I use it for shortcuts mainly, but they also what's the other Stream Deck competitor who
was it Razer has one as well?
The Razer have got one, but it's made by the same company as the one I'm trying to think of, and they've badged it Razer. Anyway, this other company, they
begins with an L.
This other company, they were the ones that first started to put dials and knobs on, and the Elgato were not doing that, but they kind of are now. What's that other firm called? Have you found it?
I'm currently googling in the background. If you want to, Tascam have one?
No. It's a really famous one.
Yeah.
I'll find it in a second. But yeah, the bottom line is you can because it's so modular. You can just put what you like on it. You can put displays on it and knobs and sliders and touchscreen, and it's also magnetic. So however you want to put the thing on your desk, whether it's in landscape or portrait, which way up you want the elements, it just all clacks into place, which is just brilliant. Light shows and faders and dials and buttons. It's just such a shame that it's not actually for sale, and you've got to basically take a risk on Kickstarter, which is like 299 quid is your minimum investment. And I'm not saying that this thing is not worth 299 quid, but I'm just really dubious about handing over cash for something that you can't see, which we know that might go tits up. So yeah, great shame, because I would love one of these, and I'm sure you would.
Yes, I think it's Loop Deck.
Loop Deck, that's it, yeah. Loop Deck were the first ones. Well done. Loop Deck were the first ones to put kind of dials on, whereas Elgato Stream Decks were all traditionally all buttons, yeah.
Yeah. Well, because this is Coolermaster, who is a good recognised... Yeah, I have Coolermaster stuff in my computer. A good recognised company. I do think that this is probably going to be a bit of a thing. Also, it was fully funded in, 6 days or something like that. Whereas I think they gave it a month, but they got it in 6 days.
Right.
And that was last October, actually. I'm just looking at, wow. It was, this went out in October, and we're only hearing about it now. But these are the first ones that are starting to arrive. If you are interested in this, the base model is $299, and that is the Kickstarter special price. It will be going up to $399 whenever it becomes...
That's too much.
Standard. But that comes with 3 modules, which are the basic models. You get the base module, plus you get the 15-key IPS display module, the 5 fader module, and then the encoder with IPS display module, which is like the Roly bar. And then you can also buy the encoder with IPS display module, which is like a cylindrical knob that you rotate that has a screen in the middle of it. And then there's the 3 knob module, which I think sounds amazing. Everybody needs 3 knobs in their life, don't they?
Yeah. There is a package for $259, the starter kit. But yeah, you don't get all the most interesting...
was it $259? I thought it was $299.
Well, no, if you scroll down, there's a starter kit, which is $259, but it hasn't got the most interesting modules with it. You're right. You've got to pay a bit more to get that, like that LCD display knobby thingy. But that's a slightly cheaper way to get the base unit. But so shipping was supposed to be October 24. So presumably, if you ordered one of these now, it wouldn't be too long coming.
Yes, but you would have to work out some extensive shipping costs as well, because it's only US and Canada that gets the free shipping or the whatever shipping. But it does look gorgeous. I would love one of these beside me. And I wonder if it's Linux compatible. That's another issue that we'll have to jump through. Yeah. I imagine it's probably Mac and Windows out of the box, but who knows about Linux?
FAQ.
And you can attach it to a microphone.
How much is shipping? They're not saying.
No. Anyway, it's a lovely looking device, and if you want one of these, I'd suggest going and checking it. Or if you're looking for some kind of hub for your desk, do check this out first, and then decide whether or not you need it. It's an expensive option, but it does beat the pants off those little Elgatos that are out there. The moment.
Much more interesting.
Yes. All right, moving into the banter section. There's not much news. I took a few things out because I figured that we'd get a lot of length out of the or me rambling about the UK government. But I wanted to go into the banter section because there's a couple of things that I discovered in the last week. The first was I was on Gumtree and I happened upon a lady who was giving away a Windows 98 computer. So I thought, well, she's giving it away. I could go get it and just have a play with it, a tinker with it. And I got it and I installed it and got it all up and running. And it's wonderful. It really is. It worked straight away. There was virtually no issues with it. I did have to replace the CMOS battery. But the CMOS battery worked for a little while. Until someone on Reddit suggested that I take photographs of the BIOS just in case the CMOS battery failed. So I went in and rebooted the machine, took some photographs of the BIOS, booted it up, and the battery failed. It's like, wow, how lucky am I? So I was able to throw all the settings back into the BIOS with a new battery without any issues whatsoever. But it's sitting over there with a nice little, I think it's a 15-inch CRT display. It's made by Packard Bell. It's got an Intel Pentium 3 inside of it with 96 megabytes of RAM. It doesn't have a graphics card or a sound card at the moment. It's got some sort of Yamaha sound chip on the board that isn't compatible with everything, but is compatible with a few things, because I stuck on Star Trek Generations and it worked beautifully, but then I stuck on Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine, and it has no sound whatsoever and isn't compatible with the Yamaha drivers. So I'm biding my time. I'm going and finding every bit of software that I have knocking around that is compatible with Windows 98. I managed to upgrade it from first edition to second edition and put on the Microsoft Plus as well. And I was just having a play around with all the things that you can do, walk down memory lane. And I noticed that this has been used by, I think, maybe an elderly couple for a number of years, because they did leave a lot of stuff on it. There were some photographs and emails in Outlook Express, and I got rid of that carefully. But I've left the original install and upgraded it, so whenever I actually log in, it's like, welcome, Karen. Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Karen. But there's connections to FreeServe, and I discovered there was an AOL connection as well, and I thought, I could set up my own dial-up ISP and then dial in using the modem to my router and get online that way. And it took me down a bit of a rabbit hole into AOL Desktop, which I discovered, and I shit you not, it's still there. You can still go and get it and pay for it. It costs you $7 a month. AOL Desktop can be downloaded to your Windows computer and give you that whole monthly AOL thing with You've Got Mail and that desktop interface. And it hasn't changed very much. AIM is there that allows you to instant message your friends who are also using AOL. There's some advertising in it, despite the fact you're paying $30 or $7 a month. But there's AOL News, and there's some games and things, and all the old-fashioned emojis that they used to have in AOL. It's all still there. I couldn't believe it. Did you know this? Are you aware of this?
No, and I can't imagine going back to it. In terms of nostalgia, absolutely. I can remember using AOL as one of my first interfaces into the net, the web. And I think it must have been about 1999. It was around that time. And I used to love AOL, and I had, loads and loads of friends on it, and you could instant message them, and you had tools in mail as well, in email that you could use that you don't get now. And I had great fun with AOL. I thought it was great. And whenever I used to tell people that I was in the UK online, no one would believe me. You don't get AOL in the UK. I said, yes, we do. And because the vast majority of people that were using it at that time were Americans, of course, as is indicated by the name of the thing. But yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. In terms of the hardware, Windows 98 software and the box, yeah, it's all great nostalgia, isn't it? But there'll come a point where you'll kind of get fed up with it, I think, and you'll probably turn it off and not turn it on again.
No, I've got a plan. I'm going to get more. I'm going to have a Windows 95 machine beside it, and then on the other side of it, I'm going to have a Windows 2000 machine. Plus, I'm also going to have a Windows ME machine, just because I'm a bit of a sadist. And I'm going to slowly set them all up, and I've discovered that you can buy VGA switchers still today, and I'll use as much of the one monitor as I can for all of these different machines, and have them all sitting over there, ready to go at a moment's notice if I suddenly feel the need to play Command and Conquer on an appropriate environment.
Or SimCity.
I'll have a Windows 3.1 machine. I'll have an MS-DOS machine.
SimCity 2000 would run beautifully on one of those old systems. Windows 2000. Windows 2000 was what I used to play that on, I think. And it worked beautifully well.
It works beautifully on my Windows 98 SE. It's on there. And Streets of Sin City as well, because I own that.
Oh, PGA Tour Golf as well, with the square little ball.
Oh no, I don't have. I've got Lynx.
All right, okay.
Which I think is DOS. It's an older budget copy of Lynx. But I was going through all my boxes down in the shed of all my old Windows software and dusting it off and getting really annoyed because there were boxes without discs in it, and then there were discs without boxes. I don't know where they've gone. They've disappeared. I think they evaporate.
Yes.
Do things evaporate definitely. As often as I think?
They get washed away in the rain. That's what happens.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that just isn't there anymore, and it's really annoying me where it could have gone. So I've got as much as I can up and opened boxes, excitedly going to install commandos behind enemy lines.
What you need to do is go to some more auctions. Talking of which, you said in your 2 weeks off, you got 3 lined up and you do at least one. Did you do one? No. 2 weeks off and you just went off and did something else.
I filmed it. I just haven't got around to editing it because I had stuff to do. I got busy and I'm retired now. I'm just enjoying doing things as I please. Although you will be pleased to know that I've just bought 7 crates of DVDs. And there's some games in there as well, and some CDs too.
Excellent.
I have to pick those up on Tuesday morning because I wasn't able to get them yesterday. All right. Ted, where are you going for your bantery bant?
For my bant. For my quick bant, I'm going to talk about film photography. I saw a article in the press this week in DP Review about this company in the Far East somewhere who are called Lucky Film, and I'd never heard of Lucky Film, but apparently they're a thing. They've been around for decades, and they have decided that they're going to produce newly produce some colour. Film for cameras, ISO 200 and 100 rolls of film, and they're going to do it on the cheap, and not charge the fortune that the likes of Kodak do now, because it's like vinyl LPs. Low demand means high prices. So good for you, I say, Lucky Film, and I'm with you. Anyway, this set me thinking about the whole film photography and cameras, and apparently there's another article I linked to in Petapixel which was suggesting that Generation Z, which is I think is Generation Z, you've got to be born after 2000, haven't you? Is that right?
Is that not? Oh, yeah. Generation X is before 1990s. Then there's Millennials, and then Generation Z is after. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, so Generation Z in China apparently are all rejecting mobile phone photography. I mean, to be honest, the reason that they're saying that they're rejecting smartphone photography is that the cameras, digital cameras, have got advanced sensors, optics and controls, and can take far superior images than smartphones. Well, frankly, I don't believe that. I think that it's just that people have got gadget lust, and phones are so boring and bland these days that they're moving to try and find something else. We were talking last time about MP3 players, and I think that the whole thing about compact cameras is just a buzz thing. And I mean, it might have legs. It seems that LP Records has probably got some legs, but how long it lasts, I don't know. But that feels to me as though it's an excuse. It's to say that smartphone photography is not good enough, because actually it is. More and more it is good enough for what the vast majority of people want to do with photographs. But going back into film, that's another matter. That article I linked to was not necessarily about film. But if film is coming back, and if film is going to be a thing, what I started to then do in my Bant was to go and try and look for some used cameras and used lenses and see what's out there at what prices, film cameras specifically, obviously, and what you could get. And I stumbled into a couple of used film camera websites, one of which I've linked to in the show notes, which is the London Camera Exchange. And you can just search through there, and they've got tons and tons of. There are all sorts of different prices. I mean, if you want the all singing, all dancing, best there was kind of cameras that are almost collectibles. I mean, there's a Leica one in there, for example, which is £9,000, I think. But mostly speaking, they're 50 quid, 40 quid, 60 quid, 70 quid, depending on what they were, how desirable they were. There's an OM2N, for example, Olympus OM2N, with a 50mm f1.8, and that's 150 quid. There's also the Nikon was my particular area of desire, and there are some Nikon cameras, but anyway, this is only one out there, and there are others out there, and it felt to me as though if film is going to come back, it just might be worth a look right now at bagging yourself a bargain film camera that's in good condition, that's going to work and it's going to last for the duration, and before someone leaps onto this and says, right, we're going to start making new film cameras and we're going to start charging the same as digital cameras. So, do you think there's any legs in film coming back, and film cameras and second-hand and used?
I do. I think for a large, well, for a viable percentage of the public, it will. I'm watching the three things that are happening right now. One, we've just discussed about the UK having access to all of your iCloud photographs, which means you're going to want to put your photographs probably on paper in albums again.
Okay.
DVDs, Netflix putting up their prices again. Was someone posted in the MeWe group that Disney Plus has lost 700,000 subscribers over the last couple of months. So people are moving away from that, and they need something to watch. So I think they're going back to disc. The likes of Arrow, they're noticing their profits are rising rapidly because people are buying these movies that they're releasing in special editions and boutique Blu-rays and things. Mm-hmm. And then there's another one as well that I've just forgotten. That was another point. Vinyl, I suppose, yeah. They haven't quite clamped down on or found a way to alienate the streamers on YouTube Music or Spotify, but that's only likely to happen where you're going to have, the revival of the Lemonheads, and it's only going to be on YouTube Music. It's only a matter of time before they start trying to do something like that. It happened a few years ago. Remember, U2 released an album and Apple gave it to everyone and forcibly installed it on their phone, and there was a huge backlash where you can't give someone an album for free if they don't want it, and people get annoyed. So I do think that people are quite happy to step away from it and be, a bit woo, a bit wah. Yeah, I like listening to my music on record, and people do that. People like to be unique. And there's always someone somewhere that you know, like Ted Salmon loves to use film cameras.
Mm-hmm. Or,
and he's,
or LP
yeah.
records. And I get a lot of enjoyment out of that, yeah.
Yeah, and you'll be first to tell anyone that you really enjoy doing this and this is your thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And almost not trying to convert people, but showing people the benefits of having it that way. I would be a DVD collector, a movie collector, and I love having those. And I love putting in a DVD and watching it and seeing the menu pop up and being able to interact with the menu and find goodies. And you can go online and see if there's Easter eggs, play with the special features. That's an afternoon's worth of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a movie's just not a movie for the duration of the runtime. There's so much more to have and learn and find out about these things with commentaries and things like that. So I get enthusiastic about that.
Yeah.
Couldn't give a damn about film photography, to be honest. I quite like digital photography. It's far handier. But I'm not going to take that away from you in the slightest. I understand where you're coming from because I have that fetish as well.
Yeah, yeah, and it's about control, and it's about stepping back from the digital world a bit. I think I spoke about film photography about 2 or 3 years ago, and almost kind of got into it. In fact, Ian Barton, another name check for Ian, was talking to me about it. We were talking about where to buy film and where to get it developed and how much that costs, and it kind of frightened me off a bit because to develop a film was going to cost the best part of 20 quid to get 36 prints as well. So you've got to buy 10. The film's going to cost you 10 quid, 20 quid to get it processed, and you're into 30 quid per roll of film, and it starts to get really expensive. However, the point about this is Lucky Film is that if they bring the prices down and it gets more popular, then it might be better and more appealing to people like me who wants to go out and actually not just snap off 50 shots to try and get the best one, but actually go back to the craft of photography and what it was supposed to be about back in the day, which was a measured approach where you work it out, you learn the craft, and you learn about shutter speed and aperture relationship and film speed, and you know about what you're doing and not just kind of pointing and shooting and firing it off. And I think that film over digital cameras would bring that back into me a bit, and I'm looking forward to possibly this taking off. And I can spend hours online looking for second-hand cameras, bit like you and your Linux or whatever you do with computer. Just spend. I suddenly realised that like 2 hours have gone, and I'm looking for a second-hand film camera.
Yeah. No, but I hear you, and I do wait for you to be contacted by the British government to find out why exactly you're ordering Replenisher and various other chemicals to a caravan in rural Wales.
Good fun
What's
though.
going on
Good
here?
fun. I don't for 1 minute intend to start processing my own like I used to and put my hands into an E6 bag, but. I'm really interested in this, and I want to pursue it, and I'm interested to see if it's got any legs and it'll move forward based on those articles that I linked to.
Well, folks, what do you think? Do you think that Ted should do this? Let us know in the comments box. Do make contact with us and give Ted some tips. Ted needs tips.
Yeah. Now, my other love, very, very quickly, I just wanted to mention that I got, last week I got a Sony Theatre U, which is a speaker thingy that you hang around your neck and you listen to your TV particularly, or any kind of Bluetooth audio. And it worked really well for sound and everything, really good, but it kept slipping around. I'd bought it from someone locally, so in the end I tried and I just couldn't make it work, so I sent it back. But in my basket I noticed that there was my Marshall Monitor 3s, and I just wanted to quickly mention to say that they were offering it at over 5 months, and I couldn't resist it any longer, and I got my Marshall Monitor 3, and they're absolutely lovely. They're really, really nice. There's a couple of annoyances with them, one of them being that there's no 3.5mm cabling available, though you do get a USB-C male to 3.5mm male in the box, so you can kind of put it out there, but you can't then use it without the point is that they're not passive. The headphones need to be powered, so if the battery's dead, you can't use it, and that's a first for Marshall headphones, and that's a bit of a shame. But the battery is staggeringly good. They're talking about 100 hours with ANC off, which actually is okay most of the time, because the cushions around the ears are so incredibly lovely and soft and encompassing that I haven't found I need the ANC on. So you get 100 hours between charges. And yeah, it's such a nice sound. You can use the app, of course, via the phone if you're using it with a phone. I've been using it with the TV though, and it's just amazing sound. Marshall stuff is so good, and I thoroughly recommend them. And I think that the £299, yeah, it's a bit expensive, particularly when you can get a set of XM5 Sony headphones now. With significantly less than that, but hang it, I think Marshall stuff is so nice that I got them. Yay!
Hey, and they look beastly as well with that a kind of I don't know what you call it, leather, faux leather.
Yeah. It's like the same as what you get on the Marshall amps, and you get all the gold lettering on the logos and everything, and there's buttons on them to do various functions. They really look retro, and they're lovely, and they sound great as well. They're not, to be honest with you, they're not as bassy as I thought they would be. I thought that Marshall headphones would be really bassy, but out of the box they just weren't. But of course, whatever stuff you're using it with, you can wind the bass off if you want to. But for the kind of music I listen to, which is generally kind of light jazz and piano and stuff, the middle of the range is really, really nice.
Yeah, oh, they look good, and a good price too.
Do you think so? I thought they were a bit expensive, but I've treated myself.
Well, yeah, no, I think that you kind of. You want to get into that pay band if you want to get it, or what you're paying for. You expect good results at £300. So
yeah,
nice,
very nice.
All right. Well, in the bargain basement this week we'll start with Ted.
No, that's you from last time.
No, it's not. It's you from last time.
No, it's not.
Okay.
We were talking. We were talking about the Raspberry Pi 500 on the last show with Seb. And the link was to their website, and it's £86.40 to buy the Raspberry Pi 500. And I was lingering over that to see whether or not I wanted to buy it, and I still haven't done that yet.
No, you bought a pair of headphones instead.
Yes.
And possibly a couple of film cameras. Right, gotcha.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm consistently impressed with my little Tapo smart plugs that I have around the house, and watching for energy watching and having it all built into Home Assistant, and it feels very, very nice. But I noticed that, sometimes you do think, I don't want to have to buy 4 or a pack of 2. So you can buy them individually now on Amazon, and they've dropped in price from £12 down to £9, which is a saving of 25%. And they've got all the energy monitoring built into them, so you can just slot them in, away you go. I think every plug socket should really have one of these in it, and slowly you can gradually do that.
Indeed. Is there no limit to the what you can support with the app and what have you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I have about 7 now, plus a couple of other different brands that I'm looking to replace with these, so no.
Pretty nice.
I suppose you might get a little bit of problems with your Wi-Fi and how many devices can be supported.
Right. And
Wi-Fi
and choosing names for them as well.
No, that's fine.
Okay, my first one is the Anker Prime 250-watt desk charger with all its lovely ports and LCD display and smart control dial, reduced from $169.99 to $139.99, and I really wish I needed one.
Yeah, this is gorgeous looking. It looks like a sort of a 1980s alarm clock.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to have this sitting beside your computer. I imagine it's a wee bit smaller than what I'm expecting, given that those are USB-Cs across the front as opposed to USB-As. I just think it's going to be instead of being about 4, maybe 5 inches in girth, it'll be about 2.5, 3 inches maybe.
Yeah, it's quite dinky, isn't it?
That would be. Yeah,
and you can't get
some people might like that.
You can't, yes, and you can't get 250 watts out of it on one port. The maximum's 140, but even so, you can still charge other stuff at the same time. I think the 250 refers to the maximum at any one time.
Yeah, and that wee screen on the front makes all the difference.
Yay!
Well, carrying on with charging. The one that I have, the Ugreen USB-C charger, 100 watt doohickey, is down in price from 50 quid to £32.49.
Wow.
That's around about what I paid for it, I suppose maybe a year or two ago. And this is a heavy mother. I keep it in the house for home security, and if anyone breaks in, I will lob this at them and possibly take their head off.
It is heavy, you're right.
Yeah, they're really, really cool.
By the way, I've just checked my Amazon order page, and I ordered this in April 22, and it was $79.99. That's 50 quid less now. Blimey.
Well, time has ticked on.
Yeah. In actual fact, I got a bargain off of it for 13 quid, so I paid 63.99, but the proper price was 79.99. But it's a cracking unit. I do agree with you.
Yes, we all like a cracking unit, don't we?
Yes, indeed. Right,
Next
the
up.
Amazon Kindle Scribe has been reduced from $429 to $359, 16% off, and that comes with a premium pen and blah, blah, blah. The news here, though, is that they've added a feature to it where you can, if you're the kind of person who wants to write on your Kindle books, you now can. Now, you can't just scribble over the top of it like you can with a Samsung tablet or something. But when you start writing on it, it drops in a text field and it puts it in between the lines in the book. Quite amazing. How they've worked out how to do that with every single Kindle book out there, I've no idea, but they have. And so you can just annotate what you want, but it puts it into a text box in between wherever you put the pen. It puts a box in there, and you can make your notes in between the lines. Very clever.
Yeah, I love looking at pictures of this kind of thing on the display website where the person has the neatest handwriting ever, and you really want that in your life. I'm just looking at Mr. Beige Sweater and Beige Jeans, his notes about next step with little arrows and things, and he's got lovely handwriting. Why can't? How do you write like that on a screen?
Absolute con. It's AI.
Yes, it is. Yeah, all right. That's a good-looking device. It's still pretty pricey.
Yeah,
but, if you need it, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Next up is a WD Black SN770. This is a 2 terabyte NVMe M.2 SSD that I'm pretty sure we featured a couple of times before on the show. It's down 7%, but it's under £100 at £97.17. I'm pretty sure this is the PS5 compatible one. You can chuck it in there and get a bunch more PS5 games on your PS5. I've been looking at this as a possible candidate for my main computer as a main drive, because my 512 drive is just too small.
Okay.
Yeah, I keep running out of space. But that's a decent price for a decent level of hardware.
Yeah, 2 terabytes.
Next.
Yeah. Nice, yeah. Right, okay. Next one is, the Logitech Keys to Go 2, which I've been waiting to drop in price ever since they released it. We've spoken about it on the show before. It's a dinky little keyboard to partner with your phone or your tablet. and it looks absolutely lovely. It's been reduced, as I say, for the first time. It's $79.99. It's been in my basket on Save for Later forever, and it's just come down to £65.35. But you can only get that price in the one colour. If you want the black, the sensible black one, then it's not reduced. You've got to get the white. The white, is it white? I think it's white or cream. Oh, pale grey. You've got to get the pale grey one to get that price.
Oh, right. Ah.
And you put a back.
Whenever I click across the black one, it's a slightly different keyboard.
Yeah, because the page is serving the first generation as well. So that page is the keys to go 1 and 2. But the nice thing about this keys 2 one, as I think we said on the show before, is that it's got button batteries in it. No backlit keyboard or anything. But that flap that comes over the front of it and round the back of it is magnetic, so it holds into place. And they reckon that the 2 button batteries will last for 3 years. So yeah, away from recharging and away from, putting AAs or AAAs in, it's a dinky little thing. I really fancy one.
Yeah, it is. It's a good looking device. £66.39 is not that much to pay.
66. Well, you've got a different price to me. I got 65.35.
Oh no! I've just reloaded the link there to double check, and it's 65.35.
Phew!
I must have clicked. I did click across the other colours there, and then went back to the original, and it changed to 66. Whatever. I said.
Right. Okay.
Bizarre. Right. The next one is these little doohickeys that I happened to pick up, thinking they were a good idea, and it turns out they were. These are from Eufy, EUFY, who's Anchor Security type faction arm. These are Lumi stick-on night lights with a warm white LED and a motion sensor. They are great. They last for about a year on one charge, apparently. I haven't been able to test that because I've only had them for 9 days. But I gave them a full charge and stuck them on the stairs, and they fit in quite nicely under the banister. There's usually a wee lip on a banister, so you don't notice them, but they light the stairs very nicely at night for whenever you're going up and down, and it's low level light. And I'm thinking I'm going to grab these and stick them all around the house. They do have, sticky pads that are sort of one use, and whenever you remove them, they might mark the wall or whatever, so you have to really think ahead of where you want to put them. But that sticky pad is what you click the light to, so you can take it off the sticky pad, charge the light, and put it back up again where you had it. So I'm thinking about possibly even putting them on every other stair now. Because I've got one at the bottom, one at the top, and it lights most of the stairs.
Very nice.
It's really cool.
They've also got screw holes by the looks of it, so you can screw it if you want to and not stick it.
Yeah, but I think that's sort of I do prefer sticking because I don't want screw holes everywhere. I suppose you can fill them with folly filler, can't you?
That 3-pack is in my basket.
Oh, okay. You're going to use these to, whenever you get up during the night, to go for a whittle.
Well, it is actually, in the winter particularly, I don't have lights on, and when I walk through the static, if these were along the corridor, that would be really handy, because I'm quite often stubbing my toe and stuff. So, yeah, I quite fancy having these, yeah. Very nice.
Well, they're down from £18 to £15, which is pretty good. And then there's another offer where you can save 5% more on 4 packs.
£5 each. Lovely.
Yeah, pretty good. And they'll stop you stubbing your toe.
Right, the last one is an Asus ZenBook computer, 14-inch OLED panel. Which is really nice. 90 Hz refresh as well on the touch screen. Intel i5 chipset, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigabytes of SSD, backlit keyboard, Windows 11, presumably home, reduced from £1,000 to 600. 999 to 599, and that looks the second time I'm going to say this, I wish I needed a laptop, because this looks really nice, and I really quite fancy the OLED panel. It looks gorgeous. but I don't need a laptop. But hopefully someone else there listening to this might, and that's worth putting on the shortlist, I think.
Yes, indeed. That looks like a very attractive thing, and you get £10 off 365, which has gone up by how much in the last week?
Exactly.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to love yous and leave yous because there's someone waiting on me downstairs, and I'm going to go now. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. We're also on Twitter at techaddictsuk. I'm on Twitter too at Gareth Myles, which I should call X, shouldn't I? Yes. I also have Mastodon and Blue Sky, which there are links in the show notes for those things. I also have my GarethMyles.com if you want to find out more there. Ted, where can they find you?
TedSalmon.com or in MeWe. That's where I am. TedSalmon.com has got links to all the MeWe groups for joining up, and also the other audio podcasts that we're involved in. So head across there, and if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that. It's at paypal.me/Ted Salmon. Cheers.
Terrific. And we'll catch us all next week for another riveting adventure. Take care now.
Bye.